Year's Day. Glad to have you with us, Dave Lochran, Adam Shaw. 5-game basketball slate. Still recovering from yesterday, and now it's even worse because I just ate more food than any human should eat in one sitting. Probably won't eat again until Friday, but we're here. We've got 5 games to talk about, and it's going to be a good one. What's going on, man? How was your New Year's?
It was good. Went out in DC, had a good time. Made it home this morning and got the article done. Good to go.
You know, I have a thing where I hit a certain age and I just hate sleeping anywhere but my own house, unless it's a hotel room.
Yeah, no, same here. It was completely a cost-saving Uber move.
Oh, all right. Well, I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like $20 a person for like 5 of us to split to one person's house, or it was like 120 for me to Uber back to my house.
All right. I don't hate it. All right. What do you say we just jump right into this? We got 5 games today. No time wasting precious minutes on small talk here. Also, no time wasting precious minutes on Toronto and Utah. Toronto hosting the Jazz. They're 1.5 point favorites here. 208.5 point total. But I mean, this game's just pretty ugly. This is not one that I'm really excited about. Everyone's kind of priced reasonably, and even Kawhi Leonard at his price point, you look at guys around him and you say, is he really that good of a value given these guys that are priced close to him? My answer right now is I don't know, not really. I think I can do better elsewhere, and I kind of feel that way about the most of this game. We'll talk about Fred VanVleet. I'll let you start there, but not a game that I have a whole lot of interest in really at all.
No, neither do I. I think it's a pretty ugly game, like you said. I think that a couple of guys are more appealing on FanDuel for me than DraftKings. VanVleet being one of them. Obviously it's not a good matchup. He's not a very productive player when he plays alongside Kawhi, even without Lowry, averaging, right around 0.77 fantasy points per minute. But the price tag is just so cheap, and only 5 games on this slate, really, really limited value, at least as of right now. So where, FanDuel is the same price as he is on DraftKings, I don't mind him there. And I think Kawhi is more valuable on FanDuel as well. Like, you have to roster 2 small forwards. It's an awful position. He's like $2,400 cheaper than Giannis. So if you wanted to pay up to kind of just lock in some raw points at small forward, I don't mind getting the Kawhi. But still a really unappealing game. I think Pascal Siakam is kind of interesting just because power forward's really, really bad, and he at least does give you some upside. But it's just not a game that I want to really prioritize anyone from.
Power forward's brutal on FanDuel. I mean, you got a couple guys, and by a couple, I mean maybe 2. It's really ugly, and I think Siakam is a perfectly reasonable play. But when I say I'm not very interested about guys here, what I'm saying is none of them to me are priorities. If a couple of them end up here in lineups, then yeah, because it's a 5-game slate, and some of these positions are weaker than others. And by weak, again, really weak. But Siakam, yeah, he's going to get big minutes. He's going to play around 34, 35 minutes with upside for more in a close game. And he's a pretty solid player. You do have Kawhi active, though, and I like Siakam more when he's out. And then, of course, when Ibaka was out, Siakam was a plug-and-play every night. But I'm pretty much not targeting anyone heavily here. You talked about VanVleet, and he's the one guy where I think VanVleet here at on FanDuel, you have 5,500. On Yahoo, VanVleet is, what is he, 19. I don't have an issue with it. I'd say he's safe, but I'm not expecting monster output from him either. Not at all, actually.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
And another thing too, we talked about this on the process show on the strategy show with Josh today. This is a Jazz team that has really bolstered their defense over the last month. I mean, to start the season, it wasn't pretty. They were actually middle of the road, if not worse at times defensively. But over the last month, throughout all of December, they have the second best defensive rating in the league behind only the Indiana Pacers. So they are improving here. They have the third highest net rating in basketball. They're getting better. Their defense expectedly is getting better. This isn't fluky. They should be a quality defense. And I just think it kind of takes more shine off these guys, even if they might be priced okay. Anything else?
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. Like, we expected them to get better. It's basically the same, or most of the same personnel they had last year. So, yeah, I think they are a good defense. I agree with you there too. That's it from this game for me.
All right. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't.
sorry, Gobert. I don't think is a priority, but I do think that he's a good tournament play just because, I mean, the guy's averaging like 1.3 fantasy points per minute. It's not a bad matchup for him, and he's probably going to go completely overlooked.
He had a monster first half against the Knicks,
Yeah.
and then ended up playing 25 minutes on the day, but a monster first half. It was like something like 23 and 15 or something in the first half, just insane. And then he didn't finish with much more than that because he didn't play much at all in the second half. They wiped the floor with New York. But look, they're getting healthier here too. Jay Crowder's probable in that game. In that last game, Ricky Rubio and Crowder were both inactive, so that opened things up for Exum, who had 13 assists, 0 rebounds, 13 assists, 13 points in 26 minutes, and then Donovan Mitchell. But now that this entire team's getting healthy, it's hard to feel great about anybody else here. Jingles is again reasonably priced. They're all priced where it's just hard for me to see a ton of value here. I don't hate the idea of getting Gobert in some tournaments. Um, we've actually seen some centers post some pretty big games against Toronto lately with Serge Ibaka healthy. So it's not like it's an impossible matchup. But aside from that, yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah, right there with you.
All right. Well, then let's talk about Detroit and we'll talk about Milwaukee. The Bucks 10-point favorites here at home, 217.5 total. And they're not the biggest favorites on the slate. The next game we'll get to with the Nuggets and the Knicks has an even larger spread with even more blowout concern. But yeah, the Pistons are 10-point road dogs here. We'll start with the road team. Let's start with the Pistons, and then we'll finish it out with the Bucks, where we have a little bit more to talk about. The front court with Blake and Drummond. You have Drummond at 8,600, Blake Griffin at 85 on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings. Sorry, on FanDuel, it's a lot different. Drummond's 97, Blake's 94, and then on Yahoo, you have Andre Drummond at $40 and Blake Griffin at 35. So Drummond. Blake at 35 there, 85 on DraftKings. They're very reasonable price points. He triple-doubled in 3 quarters against Milwaukee here the last time they faced each other. But is this the spot where you're looking to get to Blake or Drummond?
Not really. I agree that the price tags are reasonable on them. I prefer Blake to Drummond if I'm taking one of them. It's just that I don't really want to spend the money on them when I really really like a couple of the expensive centers in Jokic and Embiid. And I think that there's risk. Power forward's not good, like we've talked about that, but there is some upside in guys on the Knicks. There is some upside in Siakam, in that mid range. So I don't mind saving some money there in tournaments, just hoping to hit on a couple of those guys. Not to mention Luke Kornet is power forward eligible as well. So I just don't really see the need to pay all the way up for Blake. If he goes out there and gives you 50 fantasy points, you're fine, but it probably doesn't win you a tournament either. So I'm just not really getting to a lot of either one of them.
Neither am I. They're reasonable enough. I don't dislike them, but I don't think I'm going to end up with a ton of them either. And really, the games that we're going to talk about later in the show are a lot better options. It's kind of that simple. I don't want to say this slate is straightforward, but it's a lot less convoluted than we've seen with a lot of these other ones. What about guys like Reggie Jackson? On DraftKings, he's 4,800, so you're not paying a premium at all for him, 55 on FanDuel. And then Reggie Bullock, 4K on DraftKings, 49 on FanDuel. Any other non-front court guys here? Do you think Reggie Jackson can do enough at this salary against Milwaukee?
Nothing is a priority for me. I'm getting some Jackson. I'm getting, I think, a little bit more Bullock, actually, just because on DraftKings he's small forward eligible, and I have him projected for 32 minutes. But it's nobody that I'm excited about here. This is actually probably the least appealing game on the slate for me as far as guys getting into my lineup.
This one in Toronto, Utah for me. Then I feel like everything opens up. I'm assuming you don't have anything else from Detroit then, really.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think I probably like Jackson a little bit more than you do. I'm not exactly stoked on him, but I do think 4,800 on a 5-gamer is enough. to where, you know, if you have $4,800 remaining, and your utility spot is open and you need to get somebody in there, you know, I'd rather have Reggie Jackson than Al Farouk Aminu, or such, and I'd rather have him than most other guys here. We'll talk about Luke Kornet. He's 4,600, and there's definitely some appeal there. But aside from that, it's not really a stacked price point when you have guys like Mason Plumlee, who now that Paul Millsap is back, is going to lose significant minutes. Derek Favors and, you know, JJ Redick, I like. We'll talk about him, but I think Reggie Jackson's a decent enough price, so I don't mind him at all. What about the Milwaukee side? We've Dave says no love for Stanley Johnson.
No.
Yeah, I personally don't have any Stanley Johnson here.
Are like 3 guys out that I don't know about?
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure of. I'm not really huge on 17 minutes here. I'd rather pay the extra 500 for Reggie Bullock, if you know, for 30 minutes or more. That would seem to make more sense. Are there injuries that I'm unaware? Serious question. Are there injuries that just broke?
Not that I've seen.
I don't see anything here. So no,
if Blake is sitting and I don't know it, then sure, play Stanley.
Right. Aside from that, I prefer more than 17 minutes. Anyway,
down goes ship.
What's that?
We're down a man.
Did we really lose him?
Yeah, he's not in here, Mr. Eastwood.
Son of a bitch. All right. Well, no interest in Stanley Johnson. I'm assuming you're not really on the Stanimal either.
No, not.
Oh, I see why. Someone just put it in chat. There it is. I knew there had to be some reason, because Stanley Johnson has 2 decent games against the Bucks.
Oh, clearly.
So I guess we're chasing game logs. I honestly, I don't, because I don't know what else it would be. Yeah, I don't intend on doing that. And you know what? He may have had some decent games against him. Maybe he'll do it again. But that's not a consistent way to make money by looking at their 2 previous games on the season. I'd have to look to see who is out. Number 1, number 2. Milwaukee's got the 4th best defensive rating since the start of December, one of the best in the year. They're a quality overall defense. So not really liking that at all, actually. Now on the other side, Adam's back. There you are.
Yeah, no, I don't know. My entire browser just like closed.
I just got done putting myself on the beach and everything on here. Never mind.
All right. Well, you nice work, Josh. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
What about Adam? It's because were you hearing what I said about it's because he had 2 decent games against Milwaukee. I'm assuming that's why.
Okay, then yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Me neither. Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo. What do you have here? He's 11-6 on DraftKings, which means that he's $1,400 more expensive than the next closest player. That's Joel Embiid. Questionable, but did go through shoot around. And then on FanDuel, Giannis is $1,400 more than Embiid. If Embiid sits, he's $2,400 more expensive than the next closest player. He's $55 on FanDuel. Embiid's 50, Kawhi's 47, Jokic is 43. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. I talked about this with Josh today. This is a Detroit team that has some areas that are good for Giannis. Like, they allow a lot of points in the paint. They protect the rim. They have the worst rim protection numbers in the league. But then again, they have the best rebounder in basketball. They don't give a lot of fast break points, and they play solid overall defense. So where do you lean here on a 5-game slate where Giannis is the clear, like, top flight guy in the player pool?
I'm not getting to him like at all, and it doesn't make me feel good, just because obviously he's probably going to score the most, or he's the favorite in the field to score the most points on the slate. I would think, and I'm just not getting there because of the price, and because there's not really good value on this slate. Like going all the way up to Giannis just gives me lineups that I don't really want. And with him being in a tier up there by himself, I imagine that his ownership won't get low enough that I start wanting to force him in. And on top of, it being just a completely mediocre matchup, I think it is important to point out, and I kind of harped on it in the deep dive article today, that, on a per minute basis, Giannis is one of the best producers in the league. But the one thing that is different from him and like Anthony Davis and Harden and LeBron is you're normally getting like 34 minutes out of Giannis. It's pretty unusual that he plays 36, and it's even less likely that you get, a 38 or a 40-minute game from Giannis. And that's where those other guys really, really stand out that you normally are rostering at this price point. So, the combination of the matchup, the lack of value on the slate, and just, how many minutes I have Giannis projected for, I'm really just not getting there.
Neither am I. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I really like, Adam, you look at some of the guys beneath him that, they're not mid-range guys, but some of the 8K guys, you can easily make a really nice balanced lineup today and feel pretty decent about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, like on DraftKings, I can play Jokic and Embiid together and have a pretty decent lineup, or I can just get Giannis and have to, kind of lose both of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for what it's worth, Detroit has done a decent job of slowing him down with Drummond there in the paint and just playing a slower brand of basketball, or at least not a pace up spot. Giannis has below 50 fantasy points in 8 of his last 10 against Detroit, for what it's worth. With a freak like him, it's not worth that much, but it's enough to say, not how he's done in the past, but the matchup alone is enough to say, well, I don't know if I need to pay this much for him. And I think there are other places we can go. We're going to get to all of them. But first, let's talk about the rest of this Milwaukee team. You have Khris Middleton, who was clearly slumping hard, and now he's seen back-to-back games with 25-plus real points, 10-plus field goals made in each of those two. So that's a good sign. Hopefully he's rounding into form, because it was looking bad for a while there. And you know what? That happens to guys like that. We've seen it with Clay. We see it with so many other shoot-first guards. Eric Bledsoe is another one whose minutes have been trending downwards, or at least been erratic lately. You don't know if it's due to the blowouts. I don't know how much of it's due to George Hill. It's a tough spot there, but he's also very cheap. So what are you doing with the rest of this Bucks squad?
Yeah, I mean, most interested in Bledsoe and Brogdon. You mentioned the minutes concerns with Bledsoe, and it makes it tough to trust him, but the price tag is just so cheap. Sitting at 6,200 on DraftKings, I believe 7,200 on FanDuel. And if he does play 30 to 32 minutes here, he certainly can outperform that price tag. Brogdon has, quietly been really good over the last month or so, averaging a fantasy point per minute, basically producing at the same clip per minute as Middleton and Bledsoe. I think you probably get around 30 minutes here from Brogdon. He's a shooting guard on FanDuel, which is nice. So I have some interest in him. But again, just not really guys that I'm prioritizing, because I have plays at their respective positions from the last 3 games that I like more.
Right. If I'm going with, if I plan on going with one of these guys, I'd probably just go with Bledsoe over Middleton, because I'm getting a nice discount on him. And it's not that I'm confident in Middleton to give me 40-plus fantasy points every night. So I'll take the cheaper guy here. As much as it might not seem like it, because they've been reliable in the past, both of them have been pretty volatile this season. And I don't think that's completely disappearing now that Middleton's had a couple strong games. So give me the cheaper Bledsoe if I'm looking at one of these guys, particularly at $6,200 on DraftKings. And on Yahoo, Bledsoe's $21. If you're asking me whether I'd rather have Van Vliet or Bledsoe, I'd rather have Bledsoe at $2 increase. So just kind of give you an idea where I stand on him in comparison or in relation to other players. If he's close in price to Van Vliet, I prefer Bledsoe, just because he has clearly higher upside, and I'll take that all day in tournaments. Anything else here? Anything in the front court? Any Brook Lopez? By the way, with Brook Lopez, we've talked about this. Like, yeah, Brook Lopez should be able to get a lot of open looks from beyond the arc with this lumbering Andre Drummond. He really isn't, but he's a big center. He's a big, heavy center. He's not coming out to the 3-point line. Well, the last time they faced Detroit, he took 4 shots, finished with 3 points, and he's averaging he's just not shooting against them this year in 2 matchups. So that whole matchup thing that we had seen, it hasn't come to fruition in 2 games, and I think I'm pretty much willing to say that that's not what's happening, and they're not exploiting that whatsoever. So I'm not going to assume they will today.
Yeah, and also just center's such a good position tonight that I just don't see the need to get to Lopez. I guess the one guy I would point out as a value play here is DJ Wilson. Because of the size of Detroit's front court, I don't think it would be surprising to see him get, a little bit more playing time than normal. He's really cheap. He's been, reasonably productive when he does get minutes, and I assume he'll have no ownership. So it's not someone that you should, have tons of or be really confident in, but I think it is as favorable a matchup as you're going to get for him.
Yeah, I'd rather play him over Stanley Johnson.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason you're mentioning this is because Ersan Ilyasova remains out.
Right.
If Ilyasova was in, he'd been playing some backup center minutes, a decent amount, but he had also been getting some run at the 4. So with him out, it opens things up, and Wilson could be the guy here. So yeah, I see some sense in that. I don't hate it. Obviously, it's a risky tournament play that you don't have a lot of faith in, but
don't play DJ Wilson in cash.
Yeah, I would hope not. But hey, if he gives you 25, if he gets up to 25 minutes or so, that could be nice. He played 26 minutes against Detroit last time these two teams faced. So I'd have to look to see who was active there and to see if that actually made a difference. You wrote the deep dive. Did you look into that by any chance to see if anyone was out?
Down goes ship.
Christ. Jesus Christ.
Welcome to 2019, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still sitting here. We're good.
I know you are.
Move you over there. Who are we talking about? I'm looking at Tesla.
Damn it, Adam. What's that?
I was busy looking at Teslas. Let's keep doing this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Nice. Looking at those flying Teslas that we're gonna
really am gone this time, I think. Fantastic.
Oh, God.
All right, let me turn the beach back on. There we go. Who are we talking about?
Denver, New York. Let's move it on here. We got Denver 13.5 point favorites here. You and I did discuss this morning, but things change. 13 points on Pinnacle. I'm seeing them 13.5 some places. So they're big favorites regardless.
Yeah.
218-point total. The Knicks are a trash basketball team. I think we all understand that much. And I want to start with them here and then go over to the good team. But let's get into Luke Kornet here, because he's got 29 and 34 minutes played over his last 2 games. Enes Kanter has played 14 and 17 minutes in those games. Now, I believe one of them he was ejected from. Right? Yeah, one of those
he got the gate against Giannis.
Right. And then his back injury, I don't know if that had anything to do with the minutes, right? He scored 0 points, by the way, in that last game against Utah, where they just got absolutely trashed. So I guess my question is, are we assuming because Kanter gets ejected in one game and then was he dealing with an injury and just playing terrible in a blowout the other game? Are we to assume that he's only going to play around 15 minutes again tonight?
You would think that it wouldn't be that low, but I have him in for 18. It doesn't seem like he's going to be playing the minutes that he was playing. 10 days ago.
Oh, no, not the minutes that he was playing. No. I certainly don't believe that. But I mean, is he going to be as low as, because that makes a big difference on Luke Kornet, not on FanDuel, where he's basically free.
Right. It changes the DK equation a bit.
Right. Not on Draft or Yahoo, where he's $12, even though he's center eligible there and not power forward. But on DraftKings, where he's 46. I wish I had a little bit of reassurance here. That's all.
I think they like Kornet, and at this point, they're just ready to tap out to Kanter. So that's why I'm not super concerned about Kanter getting a ton of minutes. Now, would it shock me? No, it's the Knicks, and I don't trust them to do anything with logic or reason. But what's the benefit of playing Kanter at this point? Just leave Kornet out there to die, and keep losing games because that's the only thing that's going to make the team better.
Yeah, yeah, you're damn right. So I have by the way, I have Kanter projected at 18 minutes. I think you said 18 minutes as well.
I did.
Right. So I've got him exactly where you do. But that's still, it's still a guess because we've only because we've only seen 2 games here. And look, if you want to, if you're somebody watching or looking at this and you want to feel real confident that he's only going to play 15 and you're sure of it, you could definitely be right. But let's not pretend that Kanter getting ejected in one game and then apparently dealing with an injury in a blowout in the game where he scored 0 real points doesn't muddy the waters a bit. Well, that's just not true because it does. And that's all I'm saying.
God, I hate this Knicks team. I want to be able to play these guys and not be nervous that like they might not even play. Trey Burke was like the guy a month ago on the Knicks.
Yeah, I know. The thing too is like Kanter really is just playing the backup center role, right? So that's what we're getting from. It's very possible he plays 15, 17 minutes. You come in, you play 3.5, 4 minutes in the first quarter. You play 4 or 5 minutes in the second quarter, and that's your stint. And then you do the same thing in the second half, which makes sense. So when he did get ejected against Milwaukee, he lost about 3 or 4 minutes. So he would have played around 18 minutes. Kornet probably would have played around 30. So I'm still going to project Kornet for 30. I feel fine about that. But you still never really know.
No.
And that's the thing. So
what could be a problem is if Kornet picks up any fouls to see how they handle that. And if they just throw, Kanter back in or, well, I don't even know if there's an or right now.
Well, I don't
think they have any other options because Jokic will eat everyone unless it's Kanter.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll eat Kanter too, but like they don't have any bodies to throw at Jokic.
No, not at all. Look, in terms of just point per dollar value, Kornet on FanDuel is the best one.
Yep.
And even in terms of just raw points at that price tag at a horrible position, you're not going to play anyone else because it doesn't do you any favors to make a similar price point pivot to Myers Leonard, right? Or to Trey Lyles or to Zach Randolph or Amir Johnson. And those guys are more expensive than him. So even if you get 27 minutes from Kornet, he's still a better play than those guys around him. So that's easy there.
There's no one at any other position in his salary range that I think is even relevant. Even if you were trying to punt with something like that similarly, but trying to get off of Kornet to avoid his monstrous ownership. There's no one else that, like, what is it going to be? Pat Beverly, Shumpert?
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess Shumpert can get there, but he's still not even remotely close to the play that Kornet is today. So you're just kind of moving it around to lesser plays.
Right. Landimation says, or if Kornet gets 15 fantasy points and he's 80% owned. I mean, yes, obviously that is a considerable risk. But number one, in cash games, to play anyone over Kornet on FanDuel would make no sense.
No. Yahoo as well, I think.
Right. Yeah. I think that's reasonable. I just wish they had. I wish there's a little MPE there, or like at least on FanDuel you can play 2 guys at every other position but center. At least you can play 2 of them. I know you have a utility and a flex and the guard, or utility and the forward and a guard. I'm not huge on their lineup configuration, but I am huge on the contest that they run. Today said no management fee, and that was the 100K baller. That's filled already, 10,000 entries, but they're going to keep doing these every day. So if you haven't gotten into any of them yet, and you want to, or you want to check out their other contests, go ahead and head over to yahoo.com/dailyfantasy or sports.yahoo.com/dailyfantasy, or just Google Yahoo Daily Fantasy. It's actually easier that way.
Yeah.
The NFL baller is still $500,000 this week. So they got a lot of good stuff. $100,000 to first and only 25,000 entries. I know it sounds, it's a lot, but it's not with a 10 max.
No, it's not.
So, if you sign up, use our code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. You get $30 deposit bonus on any deposit $30 or more. And then you can check out these contests with the overlay, or as they're calling it now, no management fee, which means nothing's guaranteed money, but you have a better chance to cash and profit in these than you do in most of these other tournaments.
Yeah, there's zero rake instead of 15%. So just because they're not even juicing the pot, this is still the best tournament you could possibly enter with the start of your money.
Right. So use Awesemo, get $30 deposit bonus on $30 or $30 deposit bonus on $30 or more deposit. Ricky Rubio and Jay Crowder, as expected, both available to play. Yeah, I mean, that was expected, but
I was just hoping that one of them got random scratch just to.
It would have been nice.
Turn this slate into something else.
Absolutely would have been nice.
Make that game interesting.
Yep. And I just wanted to finish this out with.
Yeah.
I'm
not going anywhere.
There are people. I know there are people with the idea that Kornet could kill you with a bad game, and you know what? He could. It's possible, but it's also I just see it being way more likely that he doesn't.
Right.
At that price point, at such a terrible position. The question isn't just, what are the chances of him having a bad game? Josh, the question is, what are the chances of him having a bad game and the pivot that you pivot to having a much better game?
Right. Look, there is 0% chance that Luke Kornet can hurt you on FanDuel. 100, just flat zero. The worst case scenario here is that you throw a score in the garbage. On Yahoo, he can stop you from winning a tournament. He could put up a flat zero. Probably won't matter all that much. You can still cash a tournament with nothing if Kornet dies in the first 10 seconds. DraftKings, he could hurt you at 4,600.
Absolutely. But he's still in play there. It's just he's not like a lock button play.
Right. He's a lock button play on FanDuel because there's no way to make a mistake.
And there's no downside position eligibility either. You know, there's way less flexibility, which means there's way less alternatives. You know, he's literally the same price, or he's $100 more expensive than Trey Lyles, $300 cheaper than Michael Porter Jr. and Zach Randolph. So, you know,
you got an easy bow today.
Play. What's that? Yeah, right.
He's not even on the slate.
That's what I'm saying. Guys that no, Zach Randolph is on the slate. He just doesn't play. He's on the Kings.
Oh shit, the Kings do play today. Dude, I'm out of it. I looked at it. I looked for Kings in my list of teams and was like, nope, don't see it.
That's all right. You know what?
You know what the funniest part of this is?
Blame it on Adam.
You want the funniest bit of this?
What's that?
In my Yahoo crunch, it's on my screen right now. No one else can see it. I am just absolutely mashing that game. Multiple lineups with like 3 Kings and 3 Blazers and shit.
Of course you are. Of course.
I have more Kings than I have anybody else.
Well, here's the thing. I appreciate you filling in.
Our boy's back.
Enjoy your Corona. Go take a dip in that beautiful blue water, and
I'll see you guys in 5 minutes when he drops off.
I was gonna say, stay close to the computer because Adam's doing us dirty today.
I'll be honest. I took a shower yesterday during your show, and I was super nervous about it. I was like, if I need to scramble back over to my desk, like, in the buff, dripping wet.
In the buff. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Have at it, guys.
Thanks, bud. You're gonna have to give me your quick takes on the Knicks here, since we just basically broke them down without you.
Yeah. So I wrote up 3 power forwards today in the deep dive article, and they are all on the Knicks. It's obviously a scary spot because the Knicks are not very good. They have a volatile rotation. They could very easily just get smashed here. But something working in their favor is Kevin Knox has been getting minutes regardless of the score. He's averaging 37.5 minutes per game over his last 10. The Knicks have been involved in blowouts, and he's still playing the fourth quarter. Noah Vonleh has really benefited from Enes Kanter going back to the bench. This season, he's played 72 minutes alongside Luke Kornet and has averaged 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Obviously, you don't want to treat that number as gospel or anything, but the usage has gone up, the rebounding goes up, the assists go up, and he's a little cheap for the potential 34 minutes he could play. And he also got blowout run against the Jazz in their last game. So that, is at least a possibility. And then Luke Kornet, obviously I expect to basically be blowout proof anyway, but he's still really cheap. He's only 3,800 on FanDuel. He's 46 on DraftKings, power forward eligible on both sites. And he's only played 168 minutes this year, but he has been a point per minute guy in those minutes. So I'm perfectly fine going to him at, a really cheap price tag.
All right. Fair enough. When it comes to Emmanuel Mudiay, he's going to play tonight. He's lost minutes in back-to-back games with blowouts. Well, actually, no, one game he lost minutes in a blowout. The other one, he actually only played 27 minutes. I'm not necessarily sure what Fizdale's doing here. Facing his former team, his price has come down to 5,600 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you've got Emmanuel Mudiay at 5,700. What do you do with Mudiay here at this price point?
I'm going to end up just really paying attention to ownership on him coming up to lock, but I do think he's a good tournament play, assuming he doesn't become like one of the more popular players on the slate, because he clearly. What'd you say?
I said so do I.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he clearly has a lot of upside at this price tag. Like, he has a higher ceiling than guys like Van Vliet, at a very similar price tag. So, as long as he's not going to be really popular, I'll probably have a lot of Mudiay.
Yeah, and the reason he has more upside is because his usage has been pretty impressive over the past month.
Yeah.
And Van Vliet, I'd say Van Vliet might even be a little bit more cash. No, not a little. Van Vliet is more cash worthy today just because the minutes, unless there's some type of blowout, which I don't anticipate, he's likely going to be pretty reliable. He's just not a super high upside player. Can he give you 35, maybe a 40 spot once in a while? Sure. But we've seen Mudiay with some really solid outings, and over the past month, we're also getting significantly higher usage from the guy. He's been far more involved, taking usage away from other starters like Tim Hardaway, and Enes Kanter's not really getting much run either. So to me, Mudiay at that price, now that he's come down below 6K, is far more viable. But he over the past month, since the start of December, he has the highest usage rate on the team by more than 3%. He's at 26.6%. He leads the team with a 28.7% assist rate over the last month. Luke Kornet is second at 17.5%. There's nobody else that facilitates on this team. And on a per minute basis, Mudiay's at 1.02 fantasy points per minute. So if Fizdale does decide to get him back up above 30 minutes, if this game does somehow stay close, which is a big concern, very good possibility it doesn't. They're 13-point dogs on the road. If it does, though, because it's basketball, Mudiay could be a very good tournament play at low ownership.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of just looking to embrace volatility in tournaments and, taking a chance on the guy that is more volatile because it means he has a higher ceiling.
No question. All right, what do you have on the Denver side? They're, again, big, heavy favorites at home here at the Pepsi Center. I think it's still the Pepsi Center. A 218 total. We'll start with Jokic and work our way down through the front forwards and backcourt.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely love Jokic. He's certainly a priority for me tonight. I expect him to be popular, and for that reason, I'll probably play more Embiid. But Jokic will still be one of my highest owned guys just because it's such a good matchup here. The Knicks are not good defensively. They're not good at rebounding. They give up tons of assists, and Jokic can just take advantage of all of that. You've seen the minutes up recently as well, and Millsap only played 14 minutes last game. I have him projected for about 20 here, which makes it easy to still give Jokic 36 minutes if this game does stay competitive. So really, really love him. And then we're obviously waiting on Gary Harris news. I haven't seen anything on him yet. I have him projected out just because they're playing the Knicks, and I don't know why they would necessarily rush him back for this game. But that's important news in that it would take minutes away from Monte Morris. It would take minutes away from Malik Beasley, who are both guys that, I think in a bunch of tournament lineups, if you're playing a bunch of tournament lineups, you could have some exposure to. And it also probably would take a couple minutes away from Jamal Murray, who has led this team in usage over the last month at 28% and has been playing 36 to 38 minutes in competitive games. So the Harris news is really big, obviously, for the backcourt. But, if he's out, then I like Jamal Murray quite a bit, and then I like Monte Morris and Malik Beasley a little bit as well.
Right. Yeah, that's Ricky actually just asked that question, and I'm glad you kind of segued into that because it's kind of an important one. And this is a big deal. But I think Harris also can affect Jamal Murray quite a bit. I talked about it this morning. because not only could Harris return, but Millsap is back. And while Millsap is not your 30% usage guy, he still has a higher usage rate than a guy like Mason Plumlee, who shoots 2 to 4 times per game. So if both of these guys return, it does make a bit of a difference. This season, with Gary Harris and Millsap on the floor, Jamal Murray has a 24% usage rate, 0.89 fantasy points per minute, and a 18% assist rate. Now, I don't want to read too far into that for one reason. And the reason being that Jamal Murray has just been very, very, very good recently. And I think that it would be wrong to just read into those numbers without looking at how he's played recently and say, oh, well, this is what's going to happen because it happened earlier in the year. No, I think if those guys return, Jamal Murray is still going to have a relatively high usage rate. That's not what I'm saying. But with them off the court this year, he's definitely been better. And another thing too is Murray's price tag has come up. He's not, you're not getting Murray at a significant discount anymore, where he's a mid $6K price point. He's also pretty scoring dependent. So there are some aspects of Murray that have me at a spot where I like him in tournaments, but I'm not as sold on Murray as I think other people are here. If Gary Harris is also in the lineup, that's where I'm at on Murray.
Yeah, I mean, Murray's price has come up to where, anything that could negatively affect him, like Gary Harris, would make him much less appealing.
Right. And that's really all I'm saying here is, can Murray still go out there and put up a big game? Sure, because Murray can do it with anyone out there because he's getting big run. And when he's shooting well, it's not like Harris or Millsap are going to take usage away from him. So that's an important thing to know. But he's also, look, Adam, he is scoring dependent. I know he had that 15 assist game. I know he's been rebounding better, but it's still a guy that's averaging less than 5 assists and 4.5 rebounds on the year. So we need scoring from Murray, whose prices come up. I like him regardless in this spot, but factor the blowout concern in as well. And I think I'd feel a lot better about him if Gary Harris sat.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, by the way, where do you, if Gary Harris plays, I'm not playing Beasley if that's the case, or Monty Morris. I don't want to play any of these guys if Harris plays. I just don't think there's going to be enough minutes because those guys, now that their prices have come up, I want at least like 27, and I think you'll see that come down unless Harris is super limited. But I want to know where you stand on them with Harris in or out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Torrey Craig would be the big loser there. Like, I imagine that Torrey Craig would lose a ton of his minutes, and that's where most of Harris's run would come from. Morris and Beasley, have been playing well, and even earlier this year, you were getting 22, 24-minute games out of Monte Morris. So I think Craig would lose most of the minutes, especially I assume that Harris wouldn't come back and just play 34 minutes in the first game. So I'd still be okay with Morris and Beasley, just not quite as okay as I am with them if Harris is out.
Yeah, I mean, if Harris is out, they actually become pretty strong value. Otherwise, it would be, you do it, but not. I wouldn't feel great about it. I just wouldn't. There would be enough bodies in this backcourt that would have me a little bit less, actually a lot bit less excited about all of them. Now, if this game blows out, there's no way Harris is going to play more than like 22 minutes. I just don't see any reason he would play past like 6 minutes in the third quarter, which would be nice. But we have to wait because we still don't have any news. When it comes to Jokic, where do you prioritize Jokic among all of the top plays today?
If we're not factoring in ownership, then he's like my top guy. Factoring in ownership, I have him behind Embiid because Embiid's obviously a little bit more expensive, but I have Embiid projected for more points, and I expect Embiid almost certainly to be lower owned because of the questionable tag and the fact he missed the last game. So factoring in ownership, Jokic is still up there for me, just a little behind Embiid.
And I think also because since Butler's arrived, people are very, very scared to play Embiid and are kind of at times even ignoring really good matchups because Butler's in town.
Yeah, also a good point.
All right, let's move over to Sacramento. I want to see if I missed any questions here. I'm trying to get to you guys here. Someone said, "What is it about Kornet's situation that justifies 67% ownership?" Have you seen power forward on FanDuel?
Yeah.
Really? That
yeah, and 30. He's playing 30 minutes now.
yeah. Like assuming the Kanter plays 15, 17 minutes, that's what justifies it.
I did want to mention Mason Plumlee on DraftKings though, because he is power forward eligible. He's only 5K. Even if Harris is out and I get Millsap at 20 minutes, I was still able to get like 26 minutes here for Mason Plumlee in a really good spot. I think that he's a reasonable play where he's a power forward.
All right, and that question was asked, how many minutes do you have Millsap? I have him for 21. You said 20?
Yeah.
Okay, so right around there. Let's talk Sacramento and Portland, Adam. We've got the Sacramento Kings hosting the Blazers. One of the best games on the slate. You got a 230 total. Portland 1-point favorites on the road. So, unless something goes wild, this game should stay very competitive. Start with the Blazers. Start with the road team here. And I want to talk about Yusuf Nurkic, who's $7,500 on DraftKings. That's a really nice price point.
Yeah, it really is. It sucks that Embiid and Jokic are my two favorite plays on the slate because it does cut into my Nurkic ownership, obviously. But, we really haven't seen Terry Stotts mess around with his minutes this year. But this is a matchup where you wouldn't be worried about that at all anyway, because Sacramento just plays so big at the center position. I think that it's likely you see 30 to 32 minutes here from Nurkic. And he just continues to be really, really good, averaging about 1.2 fantasy points per minute over the last month. He rebounds, he picks up assists, he scores, like he does everything when he's on the floor. And now you get a pace up spot against the Sacramento team that has not been good at rebounding and just gives up a ton of points in general. So it's really, really difficult not to like Nurkic here.
It is. It's really tough. And honestly, that's why if you look, and I'll just swap to the other side for a second, Willie Cauley-Stein is $7,200. It's not like he's a bad play there, but I don't think I can justify Cauley-Stein over Nurkic at basically the same price point.
Yeah, same boat here.
All right. So just to be clear, it's not that Willie Cauley-Stein is a bad play, but comparatively speaking to someone like Nurkic, it's tough. And center has some great guys at the top. But flipping back to Portland here, Dame Lillard's $8,700 on DraftKings, Adam. On Yahoo, Dame Lillard is also coming in at 3,600. Or it's 30. God, that's really tough to get that right. $36. That's a pretty sweet spot in a game where they're getting a significant boost in pace, right? The Kings playing at the second fastest pace, almost 106 possessions per 48 this year. Meanwhile, you've got a Portland Trailblazers team that on the season, the Blazers rank, where are they in pace? I can't find. 17th, averaging almost 6 fewer possessions per 48. And you've also got a Kings team that defensively hasn't exactly been a stalwart either. They're 23rd in defensive rating this season. It's a good spot for Lillard, and I always like playing him more in very competitive games because he's a second half producer and always leads the league or top 5 in second half scoring each year. What are you doing with Lillard?
Yeah, all the things you said I agree with. I think it's a really good spot. And also, he's probably one of the favorites to play like the most minutes on the slate as long as the game's competitive. I mentioned Giannis even in competitive games playing like 34 to 36 minutes maybe. Lillard, right, we've seen pretty frequently get up to that 38, 39 minute range in competitive games. So that's another thing that just really increases how much I like Lillard here. On top of being a really, really good spot.
Yeah. It's a good point you just made, though, is if you're talking about playing time, you got to be locking Lillard into, like, just take the spread, take the total, take everything we expect to see in this one, barring anything crazy, 30, 37, 38 minutes, this guy's playing like averaging around, he's averaging 35, almost 18 minutes in the first and second half this season. And they played a lot of blowouts. So, you can easily see him playing, 19 minutes in each half. And that's just phenomenal minutes. I had a conversation with Josh today on the strategy show, and I kind of dug into the numbers, talking about, is McCollum actually too cheap? And I know he's coming off against a strong game against the Sixers where they blew him out, a pretty decent game against Golden State. He's looked a little better lately, but still has a really low floor. Do you know that last year, Terry Stotts staggering the minutes with Lillard and McCollum was a thing? 33% of McCollum's minutes came with Lillard off the floor. Do you know what percent he's played without Lillard this season?
I think there's been like 2 games all year that they staggered. So very, very low.
6%.
Yeah.
You go from 33% to 6%. And if you, he's actually, his per minute production is actually down this year from last year. But there's no way that he benefits from playing 27% more minutes with Lillard this year than he did last year. It just, there's no way.
Yeah,
Nobody
the peripherals just go out the window.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about. That's what's made him so ridiculously scoring dependent. He has 11% assist rate with Lillard on the court this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's exactly what you said. He's very scoring dependent. He can still go out there and light it up. It's still a good matchup for him. And if you can't afford Lillard, I don't have any problem whatsoever with having CJ McCollum. Especially FanDuel. Like, he's free on FanDuel. He's one of the top plays on FanDuel at 6,100, I think. But, talking about DraftKings where it's a little bit more of a conversation at 6,600, the fact that he is really, really scoring dependent just makes it so he's not really a priority for me there, even though I love the matchup.
Right. I'm in the same spot. And it's not that I think he's overpriced. I just think based on the fact that he's so dependent on scoring, he's reasonably priced. And I'd say the same thing about Klay Thompson, right? Andrew Wiggins is not as good as either of those two. But, when you're getting Wiggins at like 6K flat, it's not that he's discounted. It's that Wiggins can go out there and shoot 1 for 12 and have 18 fantasy points. So I just have a tough time getting there, man. What are you doing with the rest of this game? We talked Nurkic. We both like him. We both like Lillard quite a bit. We've mentioned McCollum here. If there's no one else for Portland, if there is, go ahead. If not, we'll finish out with Sacramento.
I actually like the Portland value here. Mo Harkless is 3,700 on DraftKings. He's expected to play tonight, and we'd seen his minutes kind of ramping up. And this is a Sacramento team that has plenty of wing type guys for Harkless to defend. So I think you probably get around 30 minutes from Harkless here at a sub 4K price tag in a really appealing spot. So on a slate where there's just really bad value, I do like Harkless. Aminu obviously is fine at a power forward position. That sucks, but his price tag's expensive enough where he's not a priority for me.
All right. Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox, start with him.
He's really, really good. It's been tough for me to prioritize him just because he is priced close to Lillard. And then we do have, some cheaper point guards to look to, but I still like Fox. He's certainly someone that if I'm game stacking, I would want to prioritize. But as a standalone play, I just have him behind Lillard.
All right. What are you doing with the rest of this team? We already discussed Willie Cauley-Stein, and we got to get to one more game here. So
yeah, they're not really popping for me as much as I expected them to. Like Portland is.
Me neither.
Yeah. They're kind of just priced correctly for me. Buddy Hield, I think, is a perfectly fine play. He's a point per minute guy that probably plays around 36 minutes here. He has small forward eligibility on DraftKings, which is nice, but he's $6,800, so it's kind of just like the correct price point, I think. Iman Shumpert is a nice play on FanDuel, but he's priced up on DraftKings as well. So yeah, I mean it's guys that if I get some in tournament lineups, it's fine, but nothing that I'm prioritizing.
Yeah. Pretty much. I can't. I think Bogdanovich is perfectly fine. I can't prioritize Willie Cauley-Stein. I think Fox is a good play, but I'm getting to Lillard over him, and that's kind of the thing here. But I like him. I like that he can produce without having to score. That's valuable. Aside from that, though, yeah, it's nothing that's popping, and I'm with you there. Prices are starting to rise as well. They were great value earlier in the year, but that's not necessarily the case with all of them anymore, even though they're playing well. All right, let's close it out. Clippers and Philly. This game should also stay close, especially with Embiid. I don't want to say probable, but he did go through shoot around. Clippers 2-point home favorites, a 235 total. This keeps rising throughout the day. And it's interesting because if Embiid was out, then you probably see a lot more Montrezl Harrell. If Embiid plays, I wouldn't be surprised to see 22, 23 minutes of Boban. We saw Doc Rivers do that earlier this year where Boban came in for Gortat when he just got hammered. Embiid will kill Harrell in the post. I don't think he'll be able to hang with him, even though he's a good player. What about the Sixers here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously really love Embiid. I mentioned that a couple times already. But even the concerns with Jimmy Butler, I'm not really that worried about it because for one, Embiid's playing about 33% of his minutes without Butler on the floor. And for two, since the trade, he's still averaged 1.4 fantasy points per minute when he plays alongside Jimmy Butler. Over the last month, that's gone down to about 1.2. But overall, he's still been fine with Butler on the floor. So, and then it's just, a really good matchup here where I don't think the Clippers have an answer for him defensively. So, I really like him, but also Ben Simmons. I really like the spot.
I
For
love
Simmons.
this spot for him. Yeah.
It's been a really inefficient Clippers defense. They've allowed the third most points per 100 possessions over the last month. They've allowed the 12th most rebounds per game over that stretch, the 7th most assists, the second most actual points per game. And Simmons is just the kind of guy that really can take advantage of that since he rebounds well. He's a good passer. And then the Clippers have also been the 7th worst team defending within 6 feet of the basket. And we know that basically all of Simmons' offense comes in that range. So it just profiles as a really, really, really good spot for Ben Simmons.
It does. I like him a lot. And honestly, I'll tell you this much. With the Clippers playing at an elevated pace, having a bottom 4 defense over the past month, and just not looking solid defensively whatsoever, actually pretty brutal. Butler at $6,900 on DraftKings to me is still a fine play. Yes, he would be the best play on the slate if Embiid was out, and that's not the case. But even so, Butler has had games with Embiid active where he goes out there and he smashes. So in close games, I like Butler. He sees the ball a lot. He gets a lot of work down the stretch in competitive games. So if this game is close going into the fourth quarter, look for Butler. I don't want to say to take over, but to certainly get a lot of work. So I'm not opposed to Butler either here. I don't want all 3 of them in my lineup, but I definitely do think Butler is in play at a sub 7K price point. And I think JJ Redick, I would love him again with Embiid out, but Seth says Simmons has no upside. I won't entertain that. The dude triple double. Okay, yeah, you're right. $5,100 on Redick is also fine. If Embiid doesn't play, you've got Muscala as well. But it looks like he will. Close us out here with the Clippers, Adam.
Not really anything I'm prioritizing there either, I don't think. I think that you could be right about Boban's minutes. I think you also could see Doc Rivers kind of just play his normal rotation and just like they're not going to stop Embiid anyway. So I'm not sure that, playing Boban for 20 plus minutes is going to be, a solution he goes to, but I'm not really that concerned about it anyway, because the center position is so deep. I don't want to have a ton of Boban here, hoping that he gets 20 minutes. I'm not playing much Harrell because his price tags come up and he's still playing like 28 minutes tops. Gallinari is really the only guy that I'm prioritizing from the Clippers. He kind of always goes overlooked, but he's averaged 1.1 fantasy points per minute over the last month. He should play around 34 minutes. He's been playing center more frequently, which, not the most appealing spot for him here, but still could get some of those minutes potentially. Just a play with small forward eligibility and power forward eligibility that I like.
All right. Well, there you have it. And I still think Lou Williams on FanDuel is perfectly viable, by the way. 6,400 when he gets hot. He is getting it done. All right. That'll do it for us. Stick around. Chris and Josh coming up next, taking you up till 7:30 p.m. lock for the Live Before Lock show. As always, thanks for being with us. We'll catch you back here next time on the Deeper Dive.